0800 local time. Over Greenland, the sky is iron gray, low clouds press down, the light is flat, the horizon is gone. At sea level, the water appears calm. On the screens, it is anything but. A new contact blooms on radar. Large, sharp, fast-moving. Bearing 087, speed rising. The watch officer does not raise his voice. He does not need to. The display is already updating, track quality locks in, estimated displacement climbs beyond anything civilian. This is no merchant vessel. It is a capital ship. Then another contact appears, and another. Escorts. Tight formation, no effort to hide. On the bridge, a hand moves across the console. The order is brief. Set condition 3, steel shifts beneath boots. Watertight doors cycle shut. The ship does not alter course. It keeps speed. It keeps line. The formation continues to close. Electronic support measures confirm what radar already suggests. Fire control emissions, long-range search radar running at power. This force is not inching forward in uncertainty. It is making itself known. The operations floor stays quiet. No commentary, only data. Range decreasing. 40 nautical miles. A camera feed snaps into focus. Gray hull, flat deck. The silhouette is unmistakable. A carrier. As the image sharpens, French markings resolve along the island structure. The escorts are spread exactly as doctrine would expect. Air defense ships held in close. Anti-submarine screens stretched wider. Everything precise, everything intentional. No one says provocation, no one says error. The ship's own sensors begin working harder. Radar sweep rates tighten. Passive arrays listen deeper. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is rushed. Above the cloud layer, an alert aircraft banks and paints the same picture from another angle. The data merges cleanly. One track becomes many. The operating picture hardens. This is not a drill. On the surface, the French formation keeps its pace. No hails, no warnings, no public statement preceding it. Only steel and wake driving toward a narrow stretch of ocean where no one has room to be casual. Range 35 nautical miles. The bridge remains steady. The helmsman holds a perfectly straight line. The captain watches in silence. He has seen formations like this before. What matters is not what they show, it is what they might choose to do next. A second air contact drops into the picture. Then a third. Fighters launching from the carrier, climbing hard, turning toward the outer edge of the surveillance ring. Not hostile, not friendly, simply present. The response is measured. An American aircraft shifts position to match, not to challenge, to observe, cameras on, systems recording, every move documented. Ahead, the ocean narrows, ice drifts at the margins. Sound behaves differently here. The sonar operators know it. Everyone does. These are unforgiving waters. Then something changes. A sharp spike flashes across the acoustic display. Active sonar, high power. From the French screen, an unusual choice. The operator checks again, confirms it. Wideband pulse, loud, repeating. In this environment, that kind of noise does not protect you. It advertises you. It fills the water with echoes, ghost returns blind sectors. A clean acoustic picture turns into turbulence. On the bridge, no one reacts outwardly, but the shift is noted. Active sonar detected. Source, French screen. The captain tilts his head only slightly. The French formation presses on. Engines pushing, sensors bright. Aircraft sweep low, crossing lines that had been quiet only minutes earlier. The surface grows crowded. The airspace tight. Still no hails. On the American side, systems come fully alive. Electronic warfare suites begin building profiles. Not interfering, not yet. Only listening, only learning. The distance continues to shrink. Range 28 nautical miles. Two NATO navies are now operating inside the same narrow box of ocean, both armed, both alert, neither yielding. There is no drama on the bridge, no speeches, no flags snapping in the wind, only the hum of equipment and the steady cadence of procedures carried out exactly as trained. Somewhere far below the ice, the noise on the surface begins to travel, and something down there is listening. The French carrier holds course, the American ships hold theirs. No one blinks. Not yet. The first sonar pulse rolls through the water like a hammer blow. On the acoustic display, clean lines fracture into static. False contacts appear and vanish. The seabed answers with thousands of reflections that mean nothing and everything at once. Active sonar confirmed. High power. Repeating. That is not how careful navies move in constrained Arctic waters. Not this close to ice, not this close to another fleet. At that level, active sonar is loud, blunt, and risky. And it continues. Another pulse, then another. On the surface, the French formation does not slow. Engines remain constant. Escorts keep their spacing. The carrier's wake runs straight and unbroken, as if the sea itself has been told not to interfere. Then the radar emissions intensify. Long-range search sets sweep continuously. Their signatures are clean and unmistakable. Fire control radars flicker on and off, testing, measuring, sketching the edges of the battlespace without lingering on a target long enough to cross a line. To the American watch teams, the pattern is unsettling. This is not stealth. This is not caution. This is noise. Above the water, French fighters drop through the cloud deck and level off low, skimming the edge of the surveillance ring. Not attacking, not retreating, simply there. Their engines are loud enough to be heard through the bridge windows. The passes are tight, close enough to be felt, far enough to remain technically safe. Every pass is recorded, every bearing logged. Cameras follow exhaust plumes and wing angles. No one speaks unless there is a reason. On the operations floor, an acoustic technician leans closer to his console. The noise floor has climbed sharply. The water is no longer quiet. It is packed with sound. Environment saturated, he says. Multiple false returns. The saturation spreads. The French screen increases tempo. Sonar pings overlap. Wideband transmissions pound the seabed. In ordinary conditions, it would be reckless. In these waters, it edges toward chaos. The American ships do not answer in kind. No sonar returns fire back. No radar surge mirrors the display. Instead, the posture tightens in silence. Passive systems take priority. Electronic warfare suites continue absorbing emissions, building a detailed library of frequencies, pulse lengths, and timing. Noise can intimidate. It can also reveal. The surface picture grows busier. Aircraft on both sides adjust altitude and spacing. The sky feels smaller. Every movement is deliberate. No one wants to be the first to touch the line. Beneath the surface, the water column becomes a storm of sound. Ice keels scatter pulses sideways. Seamounts throw echoes upward. Layers of cold and warmer water bend acoustic paths into strange shapes. To an untrained eye, it would look like confusion. To professionals, it looks like cover. The American acoustic team recognizes it immediately. This masks movement, one operator says quietly. The words remain in the air, not as an accusation, as an observation. Because noise does not only hide mistakes, it hides intention. The French formation keeps coming, broadcasting itself to everything within hundreds of miles. Radar, sonar, radio traffic, all open and continuous. It is a fleet behaving as though it wants to be seen, heard, and measured. That alone is unusual. The bridge clock advances, range 22 nautical miles. Still no hails, still no warnings. Only the constant, almost forceful declaration of presence. On the American side, commanders exchange brief glances, nothing verbal. The decision is already taking shape. The surface is loud. Too loud. And somewhere below the thermocline, far beyond the reach of eyes and cameras, that noise is traveling farther than anyone topside can see. Far north, under the ice, the acoustic disturbance arrives like a flare in the dark. A background roar that does not belong. Something below has been waiting for exactly this kind of cover. Back on the bridge, the captain remains motionless, hands relaxed, eyes on the plot. He knows surface confrontations rarely matter by themselves. The ocean rewards patience, not bravado. The French carrier continues forward, engines steady, sensors blazing. The American ships hold line, quiet, disciplined, recording everything. The sea between them is thick with sound, and beneath that sound, something else begins to move. The first sign does not come from the surface. It comes from absence. On a passive display deep inside an operations center, a familiar section of the northern acoustic map goes quiet. Not silent, empty. A pocket where nothing should have changed but did. An operator looks twice. Contact gap detected. Northern sector. The call is calm. Clinical, but the room shifts as the overlays update. Far beyond the French formation, far beyond the American ships near the ice edge, something has left a space it had occupied for a long time. In high latitudes, patterns matter. When one disappears, it rarely happens by accident. Minutes later, confirmation arrives by another channel. Long-range surveillance, satellite cueing, a subtle but unmistakable change in posture. Under the Arctic ice, the Russian Northern Fleet has gone to red alert. Orders move fast in places no one can see. Secure lines come alive. Crews below the ice do not hear them as speeches, but as procedures they have rehearsed for years. Two platforms begin shifting from holding patterns into motion. They do not rush. They ease forward first. Careful, pump jets barely above idle. Every vibration controlled, every sound weighed against the water around them. These are not boats built to be noticed. They are built to disappear. On the surface, nothing appears to change. The French carrier continues its loud advance. Sonar pulses push through the water. Radar sweeps the sky. Aircraft continue their measured passes. To an outside observer, it looks like tension between allies. To anyone trained to watch below the surface, it looks like opportunity. The acoustic chaos created by the fleet spreads outward in layered waves. It fills the deep channels. It blurs long-range detection. It creates blind corridors that appear, shift, and vanish with every change in speed and heading above. The Russian submarines slip into that cover with precision. They angle south, not toward the fleets, around them. The route is narrow, studied for decades, a corridor where geography, depth, and temperature bend sound away from distant sensors. Ahead lies the GIUK Gap. For years, this passage has been watched, measured, and mapped. It is not a door. It is a filter. Anything moving through it leaves a trace. The Russian plan is simple in idea and difficult in execution. Use the surface noise as camouflage, move while attention is fixed elsewhere, and get through before the water settles again. Inside one submarine, the captain studies his displays with quiet confidence. Ambient noise is high. The sea is loud. His boat blends into the background like ink in dark water. Speed increases slightly. 15 knots, then a little more. Risk rises with every notch upward. But time matters now. At higher speed, pump jets whisper instead of shout. Isolation systems keep machinery vibration within narrow limits. The boat was built for a moment like this. Onboard sensors show no immediate threat. No active tracking. No weapons in the water. For the moment, the ocean feels like it belongs to them. Back near Greenland, American operators begin connecting the deeper picture. The surface confrontation remains exactly where expected, loud, predictable, contained. But beneath it, the water tells a different story. A faint disturbance brushes the edge of a passive array. Not a contact, not yet. Just pressure where none should exist. It is noted, logged, watched. No alarms sound, no one rushes. Because in undersea warfare, the worst mistake is reacting too early. The Russian submarines continue south, threading through noise and shadow. They believe the turmoil above has blinded the watchers below. They believe they are moving unseen. What they do not know is that the surface noise they are using for cover is being measured with extraordinary precision. Its shape, its rhythm, its limits. And inside that noise, some paths are quieter than others. Those paths are not accidents. They are funnels. As the submarines approach the next part of the route, the water around them begins to change. Not in loudness, but in behavior. Subtle shifts in propagation, slight narrowing of options. The captain orders more speed, 20 knots. Aggressive, dangerous. But he believes the window is closing. He believes he is outrunning attention. Above him, the fleets continue their noisy standoff, either unaware or pretending to be. Below him, the ocean tightens. And somewhere within the quiet corridors ahead, something has already been waiting for him to arrive. The first quiet corridor appears exactly where the charts said it would. A narrow band of water where the surface noise thins, where sonar reflections bend away, where the sea briefly stops shouting. To a submarine commander, it looks like shelter. To those who built the map, it looks like a gate. The Russian boat enters without hesitation, speed steady. Depth adjusted by meters, not tens. The hull settles into the layer, riding the temperature gradient like a rail. For a moment, everything improves. Background noise drops, sensor clarity sharpens. The ocean seems open again. That is when the passive signature becomes unmistakable. Far above, the surface fleets remain locked in their loud choreography. Active sonar still hammers the seabed. Aircraft cross paths. Radar saturates the air. None of it reacts to what is changing below, because nothing down there needs to react. Beneath the ice edge, far from any ship, a different kind of system wakes up. It does not emit. It does not announce itself. It listens. A vibration reaches it first. Not sound exactly. Pressure. A tiny distortion carried through the water column. Too faint for alarm. Too consistent to ignore. Then another. The hydrophone array does not move. It does not adjust. It simply records. Inside a quiet operation space, data streams begin to converge. Timestamps line up. Bearings tighten. What was once uncertainty becomes geometry. The submarine pushes speed again. 20 knots now. The captain knows the risk. He accepts it. At that pace, even excellent machinery leaves a trace. But he believes the corridor will protect him. He believes the surface noise will hide him. He does not know the corridor was chosen for him. On the American side, no one celebrates. No one raises their voice. This is the most dangerous phase of all. The moment when certainty tempts action. They resist it. Instead, they wait for confirmation. A second quiet corridor opens ahead, narrower than the first. The submarine turns slightly to align with it. The maneuver is smooth, practiced. As it does, the signature sharpens. Pump jet modulation, shaft harmonics, hull resonance under load. For one brief stretch, the ocean becomes a perfect conductor. Data packets flash across secure links. Not excited, not rushed, clean. target quality improves. The submarine is no longer a probability, it is a solution. Above, the surface picture does not change. The French formation continues broadcasting noise. The American ships remain steady and quiet. To any outside observer, nothing has advanced. Below, the trap is nearly shut. The second submarine enters the corridor minutes behind the first. It follows the same logic, the same assumptions, the same route. It makes the same mistake. The passive array records both. Inside the Russian boat, confidence peaks. The worst of the noise seems behind them. The corridor feels safe. The path ahead appears clear. The captain orders a slight course correction to optimize speed and distance. That correction seals it. On the surface, something subtle happens. Not a maneuver, not a formation shift, a synchronization. Two fleets that looked opposed begin sharing the same timing reference. No words exchanged, no obvious signal. Systems aligned. Below, the water pressure changes again, not from sound, from intent. The first active ping does not come immediately. It waits until the geometry is perfect, until escape vectors narrow, until depth and distance favor the listener. When it comes, it is overwhelming. A focused, high-energy pulse floods the corridor, not as a search, but as a statement. It reflects off the submarine's hull and returns saturated with detail. Inside the Russian boat, alarms flare, not strike warnings, system overloads, sensors drown in signal, displays blur under the weight of incoming data. Before the first echo is gone, a second ping arrives, then another from a different angle. The corridor collapses. The ocean that had felt open becomes solid. Inside the submarine, crew members brace instinctively. The sound is not only heard, it is felt, through steel, through bone. Control systems struggle to compensate. Sonar returns become useless. The noise floor spikes past operating limits. The captain understands now. This was never a confrontation on the surface. It was a pursuit, and it has ended. Above them, aircraft engines cut through the cloud as anti-submarine platforms arrive on station. Not rushing, not aggressive, simply present. Exercise torpedoes enter the water. Their propellers are intentionally loud, unmistakable. They circle. There is nowhere left to go. The order is given. Ballast tanks flood. The submarine rises. Slowly, reluctantly, it breaks the surface of an ocean it believed had revealed nothing. The trap has closed, and not a single shot has been fired. The submarine surfaces without spectacle. No blast, no wreckage, only steel emerging into gray light, water pouring off the hull in heavy sheets. The sail clears last, antennas rising like an admission. Above it, aircraft hold position. Cameras roll, sensors continue recording. No one speaks on open channels. The ocean is suddenly quiet. On the American bridge, no one celebrates. Posture does not change. Systems remain controlled. This phase was never about destruction. It was about certainty. Below the surface, the second submarine hesitates. It remains submerged a few seconds longer, clinging to the last fragments of denial. Then it follows. Another hull, another tower, another acknowledgement that the game is over. Exercise torpedoes circle at a safe distance, loud and deliberate. Not an attack, a reminder. Every bearing covered. Every option gone. Inside the Russian boats, systems are still recovering. Displays return slowly, distorted by overload. Sonar arrays are effectively blind, saturated by the focused pings that forced them upward. The most valuable thing they carried was never their payload. It was their sound. And that sound has already been taken. Passive arrays under the ice continue recording. Every vibration, every correction, every acoustic fingerprint produced during the ascent is cataloged and time-stamped. This is not theoretical intelligence, it is measured. On the surface, the French formation begins to loosen, not retreating, not advancing, just easing apart. Engines come back. Sonar emissions fade one by one. The noise disappears almost as quickly as it arrived. For the first time since the encounter began, the water returns to its natural state. Cold, dense, honest. That is when the final understanding settles in. There was never a true confrontation between fleets. The French carrier that dominated the radar picture was never where it seemed to be. What Russian sensors saw was a composite. Decoys, emissions, cyber-fed returns arranged to create the illusion of a heavy force. The real presence was minimal. 15 specialists on the ice, no armor, no flags, no heavy firepower. Only hydrophones placed exactly where the ocean would betray anyone moving too fast, too confidently, too certain of being invisible. The submarines were not beaten by force. They were guided into a position where staying hidden was no longer possible. Back on the American bridge, the captain finally speaks. Log the event. Nothing more. No announcement, no broadcast, not even a claim of victory. The ships do not chase. They do not escalate. They simply continue their patrol. Above the surface submarines, aircraft peel away in pairs, keeping distance, close enough to watch, not close enough to humiliate. The point has already been made. In the silence that follows, the significance becomes unmistakable. Some of the most advanced underwater platforms on Earth have been compelled to surface without a single shot being fired. Their acoustic signatures, once guarded as strategic secrets, are no longer estimates. They are understood. From this moment on, those boats will never move in quite the same way again. They cannot. Every future transit will be measured against what was learned here. The ocean remembers. As the Russian submarines turn north and begin their slow withdrawal, no one follows. There is no need. The lesson has already traveled farther than any strike ever could. Greenland remains still beneath ice and cloud. To a casual observer, nothing happened here. No wreckage, no smoke, no headlines carved into the water. But beneath the surface, the balance has shifted. Control was asserted without open confrontation. Access was denied without force. And a move no one expected ended not in destruction, but in exposure. The ships fade back into the gray. The aircraft climb away. The water closes over itself. No shots fired, the outcome already decided.